Nobody is directed by Ilya Naishuller. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. And it stars Bob Odenkirk, Connie Nielsen, Christopher Lloyd, and among others. And in this film, it deals with a family man who ends up himself getting robbed by a couple people, and he ends up taking his rage out on a group of people a group of troubled people, troubled guys that come onto this bus one day that are trying to cause ruckus, and he ends up basically causing up a storm and beating the shit out of these guys. And not going to go into too much detail, but it starts a problem when it deals with him pretty much having to go back to his old life as he comes from a mysterious past, as he was known as the Auditor, where he was essentially a type of assassin that's kind of reminiscent of John Wick. And I'll leave it there because that's kind of basically how the movie sort of plays out like. Now, to go into some backstory, this movie was actually produced by David Leitch, who was actually of the John Wick films. And in this film, I can say, from the trailers, it got me really interested because it seems like we've been in this trend lately where we're getting these kind of like action-driven movies ever since John Wick, where they take like either an older actor or someone that's basically has like a mysterious like hitman type background, and they end up having to fight like Russians and stuff, and having to repay their debts and everything like that. And it got me really interested from the trailers because it looked like it was kind of going for a more fun, like self-aware type of vibe, like John Wick was, or the answer to John Wick if it was done as basically a satire, and well, as like a more fun, like upbeat version instead of the crazy high-end, high adrenaline action movies like we saw in those movies. And it also is funny because it stars a guy that who's primarily known for comedy with Bob Odenkirk, who I've become a really big fan of after seeing Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and everything. And so him playing an action hero kind of got me curious because I was wondering how they're going to pull it off, seeing how it's very interesting how we see these type of like comedic type actors doing more serious stuff or doing stuff outside of their norm. And I gotta say, upon seeing the movie, I was actually blown away by this. I thought this was a really fun movie, and given for what it is definitely basically what I consider like a fun it's like a comedy version of John Wick. And honestly, if it was shared the same universe as John Wick, that would actually be a funny crossover if that ever happened. But to get my pros out of the way, Bob Odenkirk, I think, is what really steals this whole movie for me. Like, he saves this whole movie a lot. He is not only funny as shit in a lot of the scenes, but he really showcased himself as being a badass in this. And that's really, off the walls coming from a guy of his caliber, because he really not only handles a lot of the stunts his own, surprisingly, in the film, that he actually did, but he manages to really, go at it and, showcase himself as an action guy and beating the shit out of these guys and doing everything. And I really bought it. I thought that he brought the kind of humor and balance that worked with this type of character. And in addition, what I appreciate too with this one was that he's playing a guy that's also very vulnerable to an extent, because he deals with, when he's actually getting like beat up and stuff, he actually really feels it and everything. And that's not to disservice with like other action heroes like with John Wick and all them, because in those movies John Wick still does feel pain, but in this one it seemed like they were trying to push it more of like what would happen if you really felt like those real injuries and stuff. Well, it really pushed the more of the vulnerability, and I thought that really worked here with this, because when he gets hit and it gets all them those bruises and stuff, it really shows in a lot throughout the movie, and it does kind of dwindle toward the end when it does do its whole climax and stuff. But for the most part, it still worked a lot, and I just got a really good kick out of it, and I thought that he was really the best highlight for me. And I like the rest of the cast too. I've always enjoyed Connie Nielsen as an actress. I'm glad that she's doing, more stuff lately, especially coming from the Wonder Woman movies. And I thought she was great as the wife. And one of the other biggest still sellers was Christopher Lloyd. I'm not going to spoil anything, but he does something. He actually does have some really funny moments that I thought were cool. And honestly, he does make a really good kind of action star too in his own right, in a certain way. So I thought that he was one of my other favorite highlights, and I'm glad to see that he's been doing more movies again too lately. So I thought he was great, and I just really love the vibe that the movie plays with, him trying to go down this path and trying to just, basically do everything for his family and stuff and doing what's right. And it honestly, it does it well in a very fast pace. And I thought that the movie doesn't, hold any punches with letting you see everything that you want to see out of this type of movie. And the action scenes, the way they're shot, are not only very well timed, they, have a lot of great camera movements, especially when you're seeing, a lot of the shootouts go down and everything. And I don't know if they use practicals or what, but if they use CGI or whatever, the blood looked really good. And I thought it was pretty fucking brutal in a lot of scenes, the way it played it out. And especially in that bus scene that happens. And also toward the end when we get to our big climax. And as far as the writing, the way it plays it out, there are some fun one-liners that I kind of enjoyed too. That I actually really got a kick out of and laughed at times. That, in a complimentary way, it felt like something that Shane Black would write in a good way. And I thought that was the way that Odenkirk and the other actors delivered their lines with the way they come out. I thought was very snappy, and it was very funny at points, and I was smiling throughout this entire film. But one of my if I had to get to some of my cons, I will say that the villain could have been a lot better. He did feel like he was someone that I thought was kind of like not as he was very underused, so to speak. Only in that we don't really get to see much of what he's really capable of as far as being threatening in a way, because longevity can play a role in this movie, the way that it comes across with, him not really, showcasing of what he can do and stuff. And I thought that if you would have probably written the character a lot better, or maybe a lot more menacing, so to speak, I thought it could have really worked well. But I thought the actor himself did a good job, but it really could have showcased more of what he can do. And because all we can really tell from him in his state is that he deals with, he's dealing with his own state with the mob and everything, and it would have been really cool had they really showcased more of what was going on, or really put more of the limits, so to speak, with this villain. And then one of my other cons I will say too is that, again, when it gets to the final climax, it is a lot of fun, but it does seem like it does kind of go on to where the stakes get a little too low at that point, because it seems like you kind of already exhausted everything at that point. But that's just a minor detail, because I thought the way the movie played out, it worked perfectly with the way, Bob Odenkirk's character had to go through everything and actually get where he needed to be to repay his debt. And it is basically what you expect from this type of movie, because it's really more, just a fun movie that gets the job done with being able to throw at you with action scenes and doing stuff that a actor like Bob Odenkirk could really do in this case. But other than that, I did highly enjoy this film a lot, and while there could have been a lot more they could have added on to it as far as the story, with some certain things that they could have maybe elaborated more on, but I guess that was the whole point, where they were doing more of the less is more approach with the way you have with Bob Odenkirk's character, his background and everything. So, but for what it is still definitely an enjoyable movie, and with that, I'm going to give the movie a high compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So, for those of you who have also seen Nobody, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, and stay safe, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.